Hello everyone, welcome to the 195th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. I just watched a video from Elizabeth April on the US elections and very much resonate with her point of view, but I wanted to offer a kind of perspective where she says, that it's about whether you choose for Trump or Harris, there's a higher contract here at play. And so it's about expliciting what's that all about. So I'll tell you a story. Imagine if society is like, and humanity is like a collective organism or like a child, and governments represent parents. And so society's relationship to the governments is like the relationship of children to their parents. And you can see that, that relationship evolving as a kind of a fractal projection. So, the relationship of a child to his parents when he's like 5 or 6 is like the same as society to a king and queen, monarchy of divine right. You view your parents as living gods. They have all the power. Then, the relationship of a teenager to his parents is the same as a society to governments elected, democratically, like representative democracy. Because a teenager will start asking for more rights, asking to be able to come home after 10, the right to dress the way that he wants. So he's in a kind of a power struggle in relationship with his parents. His parents are no longer perfect or sacred. So, you've killed God. It says Nietzsche, God is dead. So, they're no longer kings in your eyes. Now you see all their faults. You're always critical of your parents. The same as a society, which is always critical of their governments. Like today, everybody's like, oh, these politicians, they're all the same, blah, blah, blah. And then the third criteria in this kind of relationship is that a teenager loves to criticize but doesn't like to take responsibility. So that's also typical of a society under representative democracy, is you use your governments as scapegoats in case things go wrong. Like, the roads are not repaired. You're like, that's not my job. The government's supposed to do that. I'm just going to mow my lawn and, take care of my house, my property, which is the same as a teenager saying, I'm just going to take care of my room. And then if something goes wrong in the house, it's the parents' fault, And then imagine if that teenager now becomes a young adult, starts earning his own wages, is basically ripe for moving out of his parents' home, but doesn't kind of find the courage to do so. So imagine if a society is ripe for self-governance and the signs are there. There's like blockchain technology, crypto assets, which is like almost like you've earned your first student wage job or whatever. You have some savings aside. You're outside of the centralized fiat money system, which is like your allowance granted by your parents, the centralized authority of the household. And you're lingering along in your parents' house, and your parents can have two very caricatural or extreme reactions. The one reaction is, oh no, my child is not ready. He's immature. He cannot fend for himself. Are you kidding me? Who's going to do his laundry? Who's going to cook for him? No, he's not ready. He's going to stay at home. Plus, he's earning his first wages. I'm sure he's going to do drugs. He's going to make poor financial decisions. I need to control the shit out of my out of my child, out of my young adult. I need to make sure that everything is under control. And that's the Democrats' Kamala Harris camp, basically. It's the Orwellian kind of society. You can see it coming, with more tougher regulation on crypto. We need to know what every financial transaction you're making, and the whole woke movement, which is all about controlling each other, making sure that we're all nice to each other as children in the household. And if you're not nice to your brothers and sisters, then you're going to jail, you're punished. And, there's this kind of, sense of panic in some parents when their kids are ripe for leaving the home and are becoming independent, that they're going to lose control over, their child, and they're going to mess up or whatever. And that's the kind of parents that's going to say, don't worry, stay at home. I'll do your laundry. I'll take care of you. And that's the Kamala Harris camp. The Trump camp is the parents that are acting so irresponsibly so as to disgust the young adults to the point that they're saying, nothing is working in this household anymore. This is crap. I can do better than my parents. Hey, screw this. I'm going to go, fend for myself and find solutions on my own. And so Trump's camp, outright, they want to, downsize the government, which is short for sabotaging all of the, benefits and things that the governments were doing before, which kind of forces society to take on so many things upon themselves, right? Where they're not going to, take care of the house anymore. And you're like, oh crap, now that falls onto me. And so in that sense, Elizabeth April is spot on that whether you vote for Trump or Harris, that's the kind of pattern that is playing along here. It is because society is moving too slow in the direction of, taking our destiny in our own hands, becoming the responsible young adult that leaves the parental nest and self-governs himself, because ultimately when you leave your parents' home, you are a self-governing adult. You don't need, mom and dad to nag you saying, wash your dishes, take out the garbage, wake up in the morning to go to work. You have to do that by yourself. There's nobody to tell you to do it. It's like the government saying, pay your taxes, respect the law, drive on the right side of the road. And once you're in a self-governing kind of society, then you have to solve all these issues by yourself. And you can see all kinds of patterns that are moving into that direction, mostly blockchain technology, which allows for, the disintermediation of many centralized services where, society can now self-organize using these technologies. But also artificial intelligence is moving in that direction. If you have 100,000 people that each have to voice their opinions, who can read and sort through and make sense of 100,000 different contributions? Well, only systems like AI that can process heaps and heaps of data and spit out, the kind of average kind of conclusion of what everybody's thinking and try to create this kind of higher coherence from seemingly opposite or distributed or initiatives that are going all over the place. And so it's absolutely true that whether you vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, it's ultimately leading to the same result. Either you're incentivized to leave your parents' home because they're becoming too controlling, and that for a young adult is like a big reason to leave. Like imagine if your parents saying, now it's curfew, you have to be home by 10, and I'm going to check every single one of your expenses. Give me your bank account code because I don't trust what you're doing with your money. You're like, I'm getting the hell out of here. Or if your parents like, let the house burn down and, not even fill the fridge and not doing your laundry anymore, not cooking for you, you're like, screw this house is like, it's chaos, I'm moving out. And so in both cases is just an extreme reaction of some of the parents, which is just a pattern that we're repeating because every single human on this planet has been through these experiences at the micro level, which is growing up with a family, with a parent, and eventually, cutting the umbilical cord with your parents the second time when you left your parental home and you became a self-governing adult. And now society is just repeating that pattern of fractal up, where we're cutting the umbilical cord for the third time, society with centralized government. So you can view centralized governments as a kind of scaffolding around which, society kind of grew as a global collective organism to the point where it's mature enough to, transition to these decentralized systems. And that transition is going to take some time. And obviously, I would prefer for that transition to be gradual and smooth rather than this kind of revolutionary thing where you're disgusted and you have to move out of your parents' home. What I would view ideally is a kind of gradual passage of the baton. You basically have, local governments that delegate, to decentralized autonomous organizations and blockchain solutions, various portfolios or various things that they were doing, like saying, for instance, you know what, now we'll let society manage road repair and garbage collection and see how they do. And then, act as a bit of a chaperone, saying, if there's anything going wrong, we can still step in to help you. And, otherwise it's great. And just go and live your life and do your thing. Because ultimately, normally, a sane parent takes pride in the fact that they have raised their children to the point where they don't need them anymore. And so normally government officials, governments, all these centralized institutions should also take pride in the fact that a society can self-organize without having to call for mommy and daddy government for help. And that doesn't mean that we get rid of, universal health care or whatever. It means that we can collectively agree to set up systems that allow for every single human to thrive without, being too much of a nanny kind of state system where everybody's encouraged to contribute. And there's many videos where I explain this on this channel, like the relative theory of money, which is a very interesting way to review the financial system. But anyways, that's what a normal healthy parent would do. And so normally I would see that some enlightened governments, officials would start delegating to citizens more and more of their competences, to the point where there's just nothing left in the government as competences, and the government can slowly like die out and let the decentralized systems take over. So that's the solution I would prefer, rather than the crypto anarchist, let's destroy the government and then we have to just quickly find some kind of systems and solutions. It's like a teenager or a young adult runs away from his parents' home, goes and lives under a bridge for a year or so until he has everything figured out. I mean, why not? But it's a shame, right? It could take like a decade, 2 decades, maybe, this kind of transition, because obviously at the humanities level, it's a fractal above, so it all takes longer. So, cutting the umbilical cord the first time with your mother, it can take anywhere between a few minutes to 3 or 4 days in case of lotus birth, where the placenta stays attached. In the case of a young adult taking independence from his parents, it can take weeks, like it could take months, depending on whether you're setting some money aside, planning everything, and your parents can help you move out and all that stuff. And in the case of humanity, it can take years or decades, but it's just a pattern playing out, it's just a natural pattern playing out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and talk to you in the next one.